Okay, so in this example, we have an elevator that has a tension force upwards exerted on it and obviously a downward force of gravity, and it wants to know what's the acceleration of the elevator. So the first thing I'm going to do, as always, step one, is to draw a free body diagram. So my diagram is going to have the 521 kilograms, that's the mass. I'm going to write that in the box. And it says 6.58 times 10 to the third upward tension force. So the tension is this way, and 6.58 times 10 to the third is just 6,580 newtons. The reason they wrote it that way is so it's three significant figures. All the measurements here are that way. And gravity is going to pull down on this object as well. So we have those two forces. Okay, next, if any forces are at angle, we break into components using cosine and sine. Well, we don't have that going on here, so we're going to skip that step. All the forces are straight up and down. All right, so the next step is write out Newton's second law in each direction. Now, I only have forces in the y direction. I don't have anything going on in the x direction, so I'm not going to bother writing out Newton's second law in the x direction. But in the y direction, I'm going to write it like this. So m times a in the y direction equals the net force acting in the y direction. Now, what we have to remember is that basically what this represents is a list of the forces. All right. So I'm going to next list my forces. So what I have is, I'm going to recopy the mass and the acceleration, so m times ay, and in my picture I have 6,580 newtons going upwards, so that's positive, and I have the weight going downwards. Now, I can find the weight. I didn't fill it in the picture yet, but I can do it. Remember, the weight of an object is its mass times g, mass times 9.8. So I have 521 times 9.8, and that gives me 5105.8. And that's a downward force, so I'm going to make it negative. So I have 5105.8 newtons. Okay, so I have 6580 minus 5105.8. I can subtract those. Minus 5105.8, and that gives me 1474.2. So I have mass times acceleration equals 1474.2 newtons. Okay, now I'm going to solve for the unknown. In this case, the unknown thing is A. I know the mass. The mass is 521, so I'm going to go 521 kilograms times A equals 1474.2 newtons. To get A by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 521. So I divide this by 521, I divide this by 521, and then I will have the acceleration. So the acceleration in this problem is 2.83 meters per second squared. Now, notice that the answer is positive, which means the acceleration is in the upward direction. And if you look at the picture, it makes sense that it's upward. The tension is bigger than the weight. Now that's a little weird because the elevator is moving downward, but just think about what that means. If the elevator is going down, but the tension is bigger than the weight, then that means it's slowing down as it goes. So it would be like as if it was like approaching the ground floor and it's slowing down to a stop. That's what's happening.